If we think about training, what it costs, actually considering that workplace training, over $100 billion in 2023. And I think it's pretty safe to say as you move up in size, you'll see the dollar amounts per person tend to go up as well. But we spend a lot of money on training. So I'd like to pose a question to you to think about this. How does your training contribute to high reliability? When you think about reliable operations, accident prevention, performance, getting the most from your organization to meet your metrics, how does your training contribute to that? If you're thinking about that, does it do it perfectly already? Probably wouldn't be here. Is there anything you can do to improve its performance? That's what we're really going to focus on today. Most training, we tend to design, and I say we because thank you for the warm introduction, Bob, but I've been in the training and education business since my hairline was about here. So, when we think about this, we tend to deliver training to make it efficient. And it's also effective initially. Thanks, Amy. I'm glad you like the joke. Anyway, three shows, I'll be here all day. Try the veal. Okay, so as we go along and we think about training, short-term memory tends to be the repository for a lot of what we do. It's efficient because if we're moving people, logistics, whatever, it's almost that Frederick Taylor time motion efficiency. Let's get them all in the classroom. Let's get it delivered. Then let's get them back on the job. But think about, how do you learn? How do you learn best when you remember something? Is it crammed into one session or spaced out over time? This is a proven, it's based on some seminal research done by a guy named Dr. Ebbinghaus. And if you've heard of him, you get extra credit points right off the bat in chat. But Herman Ebbinghaus looked at this forgetting curve. And I think we all know, probably all heard the expression, use it or lose it. Let me ask you a question. How many of you could pass all of your college exams if you took them again right now? Anybody? Give me a yes or a one in chat if you go, yeah, I could pass them all right now. Amy's like, zero chance. Forget your 1, 2, 3 thing, man. No way. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of no ways, no chances. Snowball in that place. Amen to that. So the problem is, if we don't use something, we lose it. And we all kind of know that. But what I don't think a lot of people really grasp is how fast we lose it. Typically, as you walk out of a lecture, you're probably right about here. In other words, as you leave today's webinar, you will have forgotten about 20% of what I'm saying right now without additional reinforcement. Now, if you do a review right afterwards, if you were to review the presentation, your notes, within about 6 hours of leaving, you can bump that up to about 90, upwards of 90, north of 90% as an immediate refresher. But I'd like to draw your attention to this curve. This is basically the forgetting curve. When you train somebody on something new, if it's difficult, it's infrequent. In other words, they're not rolling right out of the class and using it. This is where you end up after about a month, about 20 to 25% retention. So this forgetting curve operates for pretty much everything we're doing in training, performance support, training and education. So what we want to do is break this curve. That's the name of the presentation. What we really want to do is look at developing long-term memory versus simple short-term memory, the cram it in and data dump. That's going to require some additional things like repetition, application within the job, and reinforcement. Hopefully you're already dealing with application within the job because you're not teaching people stuff they don't use. But what about oftentimes things like critical procedures? It's difficult and it's infrequent. It's not happening every day. You learn how to change the tire of your car. You're probably not changing it every day. It's, once every, I don't know, once you own the car. Turning it on, using your blinkers, that's daily stuff, doesn't require any reinforcement. But for things that are difficult or infrequent, we want to think about doing some of these reinforcement and repetition things. Here we have the basic forgetting curve that I showed you those plot points before. And again, the research tells us most people will finish a program right about 80% when they're done. Now, as I add, and this shows a 4-event challenge event. If I add those right afterwards, I'm going to bounce the retention up, and then the curve begins again. Then I'm going to go ahead and do another one, and we're going to bounce this up. And as we go along, we're going to basically boost the retention. And that's the magic. That's really the outcome we want. That's the magic goal. Increase that retention so people, whatever it is you're training, has got to be important, or you wouldn't have pulled them off the job to do it. So we want to boost that retention. And what we're going to see is with spaced repetition events, we're going to really boost it. But here's the best part that you're going to, I think, be happy about. This is not reteaching the course. This is not, well, yeah, of course you're going to remember, Rich, you're teaching the course 4 more times. Nope. I'm talking like a 5-minute, literally just a few minute challenge event that pops in. And you'll notice the spacing, day 1, right afterwards. Then we're going about a week. Then we're going about a little over 2 weeks. Then we're going out to about, a week. Then we're going out to a little over 2 weeks. And that gets us to the last one, which is about a month after the end. These are 5-minute events, maybe 8 minutes, depending on what you do. It's a rounding error on the course. And you're reusing the key objectives and content from the source course when you build your challenge events. Here's some tests that I personally helped organize, which I say the personal part, not for credit, but to tell you this is the truth. These are not pulled from other studies. I have other studies that show the same thing, but these are 3 tests done this year. 2 were for a U.S. Department of Agriculture instructor development course. I wrote the course, I'm the primary instructor. 1 was for in-person instructor. The other one was for virtual instructor. The other, so that's 2 courses on that first row. Second one is for Tidewater Community College. They help train Norfolk Naval Shipyard apprentices. I thought for given today, you would find this one interesting because they're learning real stuff to work in places like that and actual shipyards and whatnot. So take a look at some of these numbers, though. I think this is key because it really supports the research. Now, the pre-test is not a test before the class. You've done your course, and as you finish, I'm giving you a test before you start the reinforcement campaign. And we get exactly what we would expect. Hey, they all passed their program, but we're seeing about from a 76 to an 81, which is right up in this zone. We pass a course, but we immediately begin to forget things. Now they've gone through the campaign, the 4 events, the 4 reviews that I talked about here with this spacing. Now look at the post-test. This is why it feels like magic fairy dust. They went from 81 and 76 to 94 and 91, 76 to 87. Now, if I told you, think about this, those of you involved in corporate training, developing training, delivering training, being responsible for training, needing training for your people, through 4 challenge events of about 5 minutes each, I just boosted retention from 76 initially to 87. But I want you to think about something else. If I actually looked at this, hold on, let me get back here. If I wouldn't have done this, what if retention was down in this zone? I prevented the erosion of the forgetting curve. And not only did I prevent the erosion, it actually increased retention over where they finished as they completed the course. I'm going to challenge you all. You don't have to accept use it or lose it.